Welcome to Manawaker Studios Flash Fiction Podcast. I'm CB Drogi. This week, Following Mikeal by Anastasia Kirchoff. Swirls of blue, the same shade as my habitual melancholy, lead me to the next door. It's grown difficult to shed the dysthymia. Just as the deepest frosts of winter, the opacity of the night is ever reluctant to succumb to the glow of day. Some mornings I want to linger in the oblivion of sleep and forget the unceasing search. But the world is draining of its color, even if they don't realize. The gray mists are rising, and soon even I won't see. I must pursue, I must follow the tendrils of cerulean he leaves in his wake. I locate the next door, or perhaps window, at the back of an alley lined with industrial dumpsters. The air is redolent with the smell of moldering Chinese food, wet cardboard, and brick dust. Broken bottles glitter like shattered jewels, miniature green and brown stars against pockmarked pavement. It's Micah's work, or it used to be. I reach out and touch the brick alongside it. I inhale, and for a moment I smell the paint as if it were fresh. Hear the hiss of the aerosol, feel the cool cylinder of the can in my hand. But it's not my hand, and I'm a step behind again as I have been these last 2 years. I think of his hair, too long. He always forgot to trim it. The way his eyes cut through the world, how it frightened him. The dark places, the cracks through which the unseen things gather and grow. "Paint me," I'd asked him once. He made a hasty sign of the cross. He'd never really believed, but old habits die hard. Those austere women still creaked and groaned in his head, wandering carelessly through his memories as if they were the halls of the children's home. I could hear them too sometimes. Their voices sounded like trees perturbed by a whispering wind, branches scraping across glass. Maybe they were why his thoughts were mostly in English, his dreams a muddled mess of languages. "You don't want that," he'd whispered. His eyes darted like a rabbit's, fingernails crusted in the scarlet of kings and a metallic silver more shine than hue. He was a hunched, brown-eyed idol amidst overturned buckets of commercial paint. I was ashamed that I'd asked. He didn't paint what was. He painted what would be. Try as we might, all people are was, the compilation of memories and experiences. The brick is cold against my palm, making my skin pull tight against my bones. My fingernails are pearly and blue-tinged like chapel glass, the cuticles dry and gnawed. I step back, willing my eyes to see what was once underneath. Someone has spattered bubble letters, crude and common, over his art. Below crouches a cartoonish depiction of a wolf howling at a lumpy mass meant to be the moon. Nearby, others had followed the vandal's example, scrawling brief declarations in fading neon. A.K. and I.E. forever. Jessica is a slut, call for a good time. Overthrow the patriarchy. Grab her by the pussy. All of it so needless. What lay beneath this detritus might have been a galaxy once, a glimpse of a universe adjacent to ours, inhabited by people made of metal and bubbling steam, or perhaps filled with only a sentient wind. Once, early in the search, I found an ocean in the basement of an abandoned halfway house. I'd passed through and known what it was to be a wave, to have no breath of my own, but to be filled with the exhalations of a million fish. I lay my hand on the wall again, fingers caressing the flaking paint. It's cold. It lacks the familiar tingle of his magic. that distant like a generator in the room below. What might have been is entombed in the refuse of a world that's discarded him. I could push past the debris and take a breath on the other side, if only for a moment. I could scratch and claw through the chaos, but it will scratch and claw right back. And he will not be there. This I know. He is long gone from this place. This has been Following Mikeal, written by Anastasia Kirchoff. Manawaker Studios' Flash Fiction podcast is supported by patrons on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/Manawaker to find out more. The Flash Fiction podcast theme song is by Kevin MacLeod. Manawaker Studios' director of dice is Ben Baston. The podcast is produced, edited, and narrated by me, CB Droege. You can follow me on Twitter at CBDROEGE. Thanks for listening. On the next installment of Flash Fiction Podcast, the director shut the door and boomed instructions through a microphone. Close your eyes and consider what props you'll need during your quest.